if a CEO of a private sector company oversaw a failed $300 million program and then showed up unable to answer for where the money went, they would be fired.
Things are not looking good for Carney. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we have more pundits criticizing Mark Carney. It's been about 4 or 5 days straight from his economic update, but now they've switched over to him pulling the cameras out of committee because that's draconian. We've got a First Nations band in America trying to claim a Canadian mine. That's a thing. Gas prices are surging. Carney's reputation is slipping. We got a bunch of stuff. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, we got Canada Proud posting this. New polling data coming out of Alberta. New Alberta poll finds huge leap. 49% for Daniel Smith's UPC and 36% for Nenshie's NDP. Oh, and look at that. It's the Alberta Liberal Party at 3%. Got this one from the Toronto Star. Carney's Sovereign Wealth Fund proves Poilievre was right about one thing all along. Poilievre's been calling this the Sovereign Debt Fund because that's exactly what this is. When you got Toronto Star criticizing Mark Carney, he's in trouble. And if you're wondering, the one thing, according to this article, is the debt. You have to have wealth to have a wealth fund, not debt. We got Ryan Garrettson posting this. PSAC Union isn't happy with Carney. From what I can see, not a lot of people are right now. The new Carney shine sure wore off quickly. This is the same group that was very critical of Pierre Poilievre just before the election.
Yesterday, Prime Minister Carney tweeted out that he supports unions, and then they offered us less than 1% per year. This is an unacceptable offer.
Unions strong.
That's the corniest thing I've ever seen. This must be a new record for fastest honeymoon phase. Moving ahead, we've got, what's this? Beef tenderloin, the tiniest piece, almost $10. Elbows up. Is this elbows up? We've got Globe and Mail posting this. Prime Minister can limit free speech in Parliament in narrow circumstances. Supreme Court rules. Yeah, I've been seeing this article floating around. We'll see what happens with this. We've got this one here, $2 and almost 52 cents for diesel. Yeah, price is getting pretty expensive out there. With that, we got Pierre Poilievre dropping the hammer here on Carney.
Liberals tell you that the only reason that gas prices have risen up to $1.83 a liter is because the world oil price is now $100 a barrel. But you know when else oil hit $100 a barrel? Back in 2014 when Stephen Harper and the Conservatives were in office. And guess what the gas price was then? $1.38, 45 cents cheaper. How is it possible that, well, the global oil price was exactly the same then as it is now, $100 a barrel, gas was 45 cents cheaper at the pump? The answer is liberal policies inflate the cost. One, you have liberal taxes, including both the newly renamed liberal carbon tax, which is back on the pumps, just as I predicted it would be, and the GST on that tax and on the gas. Two, you have money printing deficits that inflates the cost of everything. And three, we have a very weak loonie. It's 20% lower today than it was back in 2014 under Stephen Harper. Why? Because Mark Carney's weak economic leadership has made for a weak economy, which makes for a weak loonie, and weak loonies don't buy very much internationally priced commodities like energy and food. Check out your grocery bill.
I can only imagine Mark Carney is pissed watching this. I don't think he's going to take kindly to be called weak. And he is weak. And this is 100% accurate. Moving ahead, look what we've got here. Antifa mixed with pro-Palestinian clashing with police for May Day protests. This is in Montreal. Yeah, we haven't seen these characters in a little while. I'm not going to really play the video, but you can see same deal here. Making a mess in the streets, flags, a whole lot of police. Yeah. Not sure what happened there. Did they run out of funding? George Soros stopped sending money or what? Because we really haven't heard from them probably in 5, 6, 7 months, something like that. Not a single Canadian jersey. Nope. Moving ahead, we've got Carney posting this. Federal government to inject $755 million into Canadian sport. I think this is aspirational to fund this kind of stuff. When we have people who can't afford food, 1 in 4 Canadians are skipping meals. This should not be the priority. This should be cut. That's my take on it. We should have a booming economy and be able to afford to fund all of the Olympic athletes and have proper funding, but when we're missing the basics, this needs to be cut. Johnny Seabass posting this. More than 1 in 10 Canadians living below the poverty line, Statistics Canada says. That Carney's spending $755 million on sport. Just shows where his priorities are. Moving ahead, we've got a video from CBC that came from viewers saying that Pierre Poilievre owns stocks in Brookfield, so they decided to fact check this.
Does Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre own stocks in Brookfield? We received these comments after we posted about Prime Minister Mark Carney and Brookfield Asset Management. But are they true? Let's check the facts. Polyev's most recent financial disclosure to the Ethics Commissioner shows investments in exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, including Vanguard. One of the assets in Vanguard FTSE Canada Index ETF is Brookfield. This is different than the stock options that Carney earned during his time as board chair at Brookfield. And the ethics rules for prime ministers are different than the rules for leaders of opposition parties. Under the Conflict of Interest Act, the prime minister, cabinet ministers, and parliamentary secretaries are not allowed to own controlled assets, which are assets that could be affected by government policy. They must either sell them or place them in a blind trust. That's why Carney's controlled assets are in a blind trust. Leaders of the opposition who are elected as MPs can continue to directly own stocks, bonds, and other controlled assets. But they must recuse themselves from debates and votes on questions where they have a private interest. It's also possible that you own a stake in Brookfield. The company is part of the main index of the Toronto Stock Exchange. If you have retirement savings or investments that track that, you indirectly own a piece of Brookfield. If there's another claim you'd like us to fact check, send us an email.
This isn't the whole picture, it's about halfway there. A more accurate answer to this is if you own stocks in an ETF, you own value of the fund. You don't legally own the shares within the fund. You own a claim of the value of assets of the fund itself, not the shares in the fund. Regardless, you have 500 stocks in there, Brookfield's one of them, and it's not chosen by Polyev. Liberals are so easily debunked by this stuff. They don't look up stuff, they're allergic to the facts, like it's embarrassing. Moving ahead, this is a fun one. Look what Mr. Bench has posted here. We got a new word added to the whole reconciliation bonanza.
Pleasure to be here on the shores of the Kitchissippi in the unceded, unsurrendered, unreturned territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation.
Wow, unceded, unsurrendered, unreturned territory? Wow. Boy, this is getting really fun, isn't it? We need all these virtue signaling activists out of bureaucratic institutions and government ASAP. They are a loud, vocal minority that have found their way into everything that shapes public life. The pendulum cannot swing back fast enough. And while we're talking about First Nations, we have this: American tribes using DRIPA UNDRIP to challenge approvals of BC mining projects. They want a slice of that action. They're not even a part of our country, but they want a piece of it. Supreme Court of British Columbia, Chilkat Indian Village, Craig Tribal Association, Douglas Indian Association, etc., etc. Petition to the court requires every enactment must be constructed as upholding and not abrogating or denigrating from the Aboriginal and treaty rights of Indigenous peoples and recognized as affirmed by Section 35. Just so fun what's going on in British Columbia, isn't it? We got Americans trying to claim a piece of our minds. A BC judge is granted status to U.S. Indigenous band, which means they have a role in legal fight over proposed mine in the Kootenays. The Sinix Confederacy, part of the Washington-headquartered Colville Confederation Tribes, is a cross-border tribe that considers itself trans-bordery with rights in both U.S. and Canada. Make it end!
A proposed magnesium mine near Rossland is moving forward without a full environmental assessment under provincial law. Now, that decision is being challenged in court by local residents and the Sinix, a U.S.-based indigenous group that says the project sits on its traditional land.
I think it's important part of the conversation because it's our traditional territories, right? That's where our people come from.
The Sinix traditional territory includes parts of what is now southeastern BC. The company behind the mining project, WHY Resources, argued the tribe should not be part of the legal challenge. But this week, the BC Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal both rejected that request.
Shows that we need to be consulted when it comes to these type of projects, any projects within our territory.
You're not even Canadian. What is this? I'm sorry, but the world changes. Your tribe land is no longer in Canada. Sure, the heritage land, the traditional territories, grandfather wandered around up there and collected blackberries and hunted bison. Times change.
The
decision builds on the landmark dissent ruling in 2021. The Supreme Court of Canada recognizing the Sinix as an Aboriginal people of Canada.
Sinix was acknowledged as potentially having rights within the four corners of BC.
That decision also affirmed their right to hunt on traditional land in BC. Legal experts say this latest ruling doesn't expand their rights, but reinforces them.
The bigger question is what's our game plan going forward? I mean, this is getting to the point of being ridiculous, that we can have non-citizens having greater rights than Canadian citizens. I don't know what we're trying to be.
The province says,
if that's the case, then no more paying taxes. If we don't get rights and we're paying for things, then no more paying taxes. This is a slippery slope. Canadians are going to snap with this crap. Everyone is talking about this in British Columbia.
It can't comment while the case is before the courts. Meanwhile, the Sinix are also pursuing a broader legal challenge arguing the province is not properly recognizing their rights.
I understand it's a process, but it shouldn't take 5 years. You should already be there.
Travis Prasad, Global News.
The audacity of these people is just like insane. They don't pay taxes. They want rights to our land. Sorry, times change. If this rules in favor of these guys, then it means that they have more rights than Canadian citizens, than British Columbians. Then maybe we should be suing these tribes members for not paying their taxes for the past 100 years. Now, Carney's been put through the grinder once again, this time talking about pulling the cameras out of committee. It's one pundit after the other.
It's unfortunate that the government did say it. The Prime Minister said when he was about to get his majority, we will be in a majority with humility. Minister McKinnon said last week, I believe, we're not going to go back on decisions that were taken when we were in a minority. We're not going to go back on bills that were amended. Well, guess what? In the fiscal update, they went back on one of those bills by saying that they're going to bring back a change to allow seizures of Canada Post mail. It'll be more succinct. It'll be different than the first version that was had opposition to it. But still, they're basically doing what they said they wouldn't do. And that is nothing to help with people's cynicism. But the Conservatives saying what they're saying right now is also not really helpful for
cynicism. So Sabrina, I mean, the fact that, of course, the Liberals said they would go in with humility. And, you know, some people may be questioning that now. You know, look, they have the power. Did they really have to use it?
I mean, it's been, just over a week since they've taken over committee and since some of these changes have been made. So I would say, let's wait to see what happens.
Wait to see what happens. They've shut down 5 committees, essentially. They've removed the cameras out of 5 of them in 1 week. They did not wait a minute to do that. We have a $300 million scandal, and they're like, oh, we don't want people to see that. We'll just pull the cameras away. Don't need to see what's happening with prescribed IT.
I think that in-camera discussions are a way to cool down the temperature, to maybe take the temperature of the room, to chat with committee in a way that is a little bit more honest and less theatrical compared to when we do see those cameras rolling, right? And I don't think that
more honest. The public pays for this. We don't get to see what's going on. It's unbelievable. They bring her on as if she's some sort of pundit with great knowledge and experience to share to the world. Even if she was horribly partisan but incredibly intelligent, you'd at least say, okay, well, they've got a point there to bring this person on because they bring some insight from the Liberal side. Bringing her on is just pushing talking points with nothing in there. You pop the top on this, it's going to be a cuckoo clock.
That the committee chairs are doing anything malicious here, and so far it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, or that this is going to become the norm. It feels like a way to maybe reset a little bit, to maybe take some of this more camaraderie and collaboration that we've seen between Liberals and Conservatives since January and have that play out in committee in a positive way. So I think that this is an opportunity to just see what the government is going to do. And maybe this is a chance for committee members to come out on the other side with a bit more collaboration and a bit better communication than the theatrics that we've seen in the House over the last 2 years.
Mel, you buying with Sabrina selling?
No. Look, within days of getting the majority, we are seeing less transparency already. And look, I hear you that in-camera conversations do have their place for national security matters, for sensitive testimonies. But in this case, it was used to shut down conversation around a $300 million boondoggle. That's not a way of providing accountability to Canadians. If a CEO of a private sector company oversaw a failed $300 million program and then showed up unable to answer for where the money went, they would be fired. And in this case, those conversations were brought into a back room, so Canadians don't have answers about where that money went and how it was spent. There's no accountability there. So I think that it doesn't bode well for those who are hoping that the Carney government would be different from the Trudeau government, that within days of getting this majority, they're already rolling back transparency and accountability.
Carl, it would seem to me there has to be a balance here between committees turning into a show and then going into the shadows. What is it?
I mean, it's a funny thing about power, Mike. When you have none of it, you want some of it. Once you get some of it, you want more of it. And when you have more of it, you use all of it. That's what we've seen and displayed this week. And it's unfortunate because, I mean, the claims of Stephen McKinnon that the committees were not functioning, there's no bills coming forward. No bills were tabled last year. So committees find things to do. They find studies to do. And you know what? brings up the heat, the temperature on the government, because that's the function of the opposition. So of course they're not happy about that, but the best disinfectant is sunlight. And once you shut down the light, and once you turn off those cameras, you know there's something to be eaten by the government. So it's for them to explain. But they're counting on the fact that Canadians don't care. That it's true inside hockey, to have the right metaphor tonight. that
She's not even watching hockey. That's how you know. She said inside baseball, everybody.
Expression.
Doesn't matter.
This is bullying.
It is. It is not, actually. It is not.
That's fine.
No HR complaints, please. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes?
Well, the point is that...
So she said inside baseball earlier in the segment. I didn't play it on here, but
they are open. Canadians won't know this, and frankly, they are bigger fish to fry for them when they're thinking about the cost of living, inflation, the trade war, what Donald Trump is doing. That's what is on their mind. So what's happening in a dusty room on Parliament Hill doesn't really matter to them. But it matters to the media, it matters to the opposition, and eventually things that they're trying to hide will come out and it will hurt the government.
Marie, do you think...
This is the first poster I should be releasing is ArriveCan 2.0. This prescribe IT, $300 million. They start investigating it and then Carney comes in and cuts out the cameras, shuts things down. Start putting this around and it just starts tarnishing it because it's time for people to see who Carney really is. People aren't really paying attention as he's, people just don't care. But if they saw that going to the grocery store, buying the tiniest little steak for $10 and then seeing that $300 million was wasted, then Canadians will start to care. They just have to see it. Once they start seeing it, that and other examples, Canadians will start to get frustrated. And who are they going to blame? They're going to blame Mark Carney. And to end off this episode, we got this feel-good story here. The Toronto Zoo just welcomed a critically endangered baby camel to the world. That's right, this is a Bactrian camel, a blonde white camel. This has some funny music in it, so we can't have that, but you can see cute little baby camel here. So very unusual. They obviously don't come out this color typically. There it is walking around, finally got up. So these are wild camels which are critically endangered and pretty amazing they've got this at the Toronto Zoo.